Entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilman Hache?
Here.
Councilman Seaton?
Here.
Councilman Voigt?
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
And Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation and our first responders. Thank you. We're going to start with our acceptance of financial reports. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statement of funds on hand as of May 31st, 2017 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Knudsen.
Yes. And with that, we move on to a very exciting night, recognition of the Ridgewood Art Ambassadors. If everyone wants to come on down and good evening. So this evening we're really excited because we're going to be recognizing our Ridgewood Art Ambassador, but I'd like to first introduce Audrey Fink, the chairperson for the Ridgewood Arts Council, and Rosie McCooey. Are you the vice chair, right? Okay, vice chair of the Ridgewood Arts Council, and I'm going to turn this right over to you.
Thank you so much for having us here today and always supporting the arts in our village and our community. We have been very proud with some of our initiatives this year. We have started an Artist Talk series, and we are continuing that throughout the summer. We have a program in July for anyone who's interested, July 29th. We have invited a 3D graphic artist to come do a workshop with the kids and speak to us, and then we have another artist coming in August as well. But today we're here to talk about our Emerging Artists Gallery. So what that was we used augmented reality technology, and we paired that with Youth Art Month, which is an ongoing program with the Board of Education. So we collaborated with them, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, Parks and Rec, and REAC, and we were able to bring some of the student artwork, which is normally up at the Ed Center, into the center of town, thereby promoting foot traffic in the CBD, as well as showcasing the work of our talented student artists. So we're honored today to recognize two of our students, one of whom was sick today, so she's not able to be here with us, Madison Leonard. She is a graduating senior, but today we have Amelia Kelly, who is a third grader at Somerville School. She was one of our artists who had work exhibited in town, which, by the way, our program is available throughout the summer. So if you haven't had a chance to go out and see it yet, you can still go out and see it throughout the summer. But Maddie not only showcased her work, she helped us to promote our event and generate some buzz amongst the other students to come out and enjoy our new project. So thank you so much, Maddie. Oh, Amelia, sorry. Would you like to read that?
Come on, let's let Councilman. Here, let's identify. Councilman Walsh is actually the liaison to the Ridgewood Arts Council.
Yep. Here, I'm going to give this to you. You can hold on to it. And then I'm going to read it for everybody here. Amelia Kelly is hereby recognized as Ridgewood Art Ambassador for contributions and dedication in support of fostering art within the village community and for participation in the Ridgewood Art Council Emerging Artist Gallery and Augmented Reality Program.
Just can I ask, before we're going to congratulate you, I'm going to fold that and then we want to shake your hand because you're an incredible artist. So come on over, let's shake your hand. You want to walk down the line and shake everyone's hand? And walk down. Perfect. Now, come on back over here, Amelia. Now, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your art?
Remember the name of it?
What grade are you in?
Third grade.
And when is your step-up day?
Next Wednesday.
And then you'll be a fourth grader? Very good. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So just a quick question, Audrey, and to Rosie. Is the augmented reality still visible with the app? Yes. Okay. So do you want to just...
So the name of the app is called Wallamy, and you could download that from the App Store onto your, onto your phone. And then if you look in there, you'll see something called Hidden Ridgewood, and you'll page through there and you'll see images that can be found only using your device. I know Amelia's work is outside La Casita. So normally when you would walk past La Casita, you'll just see their window with their storefront. But if you use the app and you hold it up, you'll be surprised to see Amelia's artwork. What's the name of it?
Pink galore.
Galore. Yeah, so throughout the summer, anytime, take out that app and
And
walk.
there's 50
walk
pieces
along.
of artwork, right?
Yes.
51 pieces of artwork.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's very cool.
So it's very exciting.
So not only are we thrilled to recognize Amelia and Madison, who couldn't be here this evening, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the hard work, energy, and effort and commitment of the Ridgewood Arts Council, Audrey and Rosie especially, for all of your work, and everyone on the committee who council that's done an outstanding job of really promoting, supporting the arts throughout the village, and especially Amelia. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we're moving on to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes.
Good evening. Rorick Hallaby, 374 Evergreen Place. I will address 3 points tonight: ad hoc committees, CRAB and FAC. The mayor misuses the term ad hoc. An ad hoc committee is by definition one that is created to serve a specific function for a limited period of time. By their sheer function, CRAB and FAC cannot be ad hoc committees. Now, regarding CRAB, I have lived in this country since 1958, and I have never seen the country so divided on so many issues. We are polarized along political, religious, social, economic, religious, and yes, gender issues. We need CRAB as we have never needed before to help bring people together. And for CRAB to work, it has to be populated by smart, strong, independently thinking individuals who are free of political interference. Now, regarding FAC, it is ironic that the reason we have a strong CFO is thanks to FAC and Roberta Sonnenfeld. And let's not forget that under Roberta's predecessor, 16 tons of change flew out of the village coffers. What an embarrassment. Now, having a strong and active FAC is not a reflection on Bob Rooney's capabilities. In fact, he should be the first to insist on a strong, independently minded FAC that will help him manage the financial affairs of the village. We have a budget of some $50 million, and if we were a corporation, the CFO would work under the guidance of the board's finance committee. Now, I'm tempted to comment on the mayor's motives in looking to neuter these two critically important committees, but I'll desist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other comments?
Hi, Melanie McWilliams, 431 Bogart Ave. I'm here again to address the parking on Bogart Ave. After years of following the appropriate channels to prove that there was a safety issue on our street, an ordinance was adopted by this council to address it. Within a couple of weeks, it was overturned based on no evidence and rather on the opinion of a handful of people who don't have the misfortune of traversing the street with children in today's atmosphere of texting, speeding, and distracted drivers, people who would rather drive than walk a short distance due to either very busy, packed schedules or pure laziness. This is the culture in which I and my children currently walk to school, which my neighbors walk their children to school. And it's different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 15 or 20 years ago. And it's not the same as on other streets where some of you might reside, where we do share the burden of parking, but where there are sidewalks and limitations. The signage, which provided us a limited amount of security to walk to and from school, was removed, and in about 2 weeks now, no new signage has been placed. What's happened is now the same neighbors, their hired help, who created part of the safety issue in the first place, now use the street as their personal driveway, overnight at times, for days on end, and sometimes waiting until school children are walking to and from school to back out and park in the curves, while their driveways remain empty for the entire day. Neighbors are photographing their cars in the roadway, laughing and pointing as my children and countless others attempt to walk to and from school, in what has been described in an unfriendly way by the many supporters of the parking regulations on the street. What I came here to address publicly tonight, and I wasn't going to come. I'm here because my daughter was surprised and couldn't believe that I said I wasn't going to come to the meeting. She truly believed if I came down here and told you what was going on, that it would be fixed. She believed you would fix it. What I came to address is I actually have to agree that I'm starting to see a culture of bullying and pitting neighbor against neighbor. I don't want to give merit to the silliness and gossipy, tattling articles like what was posted on New Jersey Media Today and on Facebook, but I actually am starting to see a culture of negativity, which is coming at times from the actions of on this dais. And it's now seeping into my personal family and home based on how you all have handled an issue which I attached my name to. It involved me, and I happily put my name on it because I knew I did it in the right and appropriate way. There's been backbiting and infighting on the dais, and blatant disregard for concerns and involved residents, following the very channels that are laid out that are created to enforce how the rules are supposed to go. Concerned residents are being undermined when simply following laws and rules, and I won't go on, but I'd like you all to take a minute to consider it. I'd like you to consider changing back what was done on our street, or at least amending it, but just what the atmosphere is sort of coming across as. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Anne Marie Agnello, 31 Clinton Avenue, and good evening to everyone. Okay, so I would like to address the council tonight regarding the Clinton Avenue ordinance that will authorize Clinton to be closed to through traffic between 8 and 9, and 2:30 to 3:30. So it's a change in the existing one. I've been a resident of Clinton Avenue for 34 years. There are a number of details that I feel that could swing the view of this change as either a net positive or a net negative. And because the ordinance came out just before the vote, last week to be specific, we had no idea whether or not these details will be addressed appropriately. Such details are important to the overall safety of the Ridge School community, adults and children. It's important to remember that many elementary school children, ages 5 through 12, walk on Clinton Avenue to and from school without an adult. For instance, if parking is allowed and encouraged during times when the road is open for the proposed change, what happens if those parking on the street need to move their cars during a time when the street is closed? Does that radically change a safety protocol that has worked for over 50-plus years? How will the fact that the proposed street closing times of 8 to 9 a.m. and 2:30 to 3 p.m. Do not mirror the crossing guard schedule of 8 to 8:45 a.m. and 3 to 3:45 p.m. impact the signage used to discourage through traffic? I encourage the council to discuss and consider the impact of this decision that it has on the safety of the Ridge School community and not vote on this issue tonight, because as it is written, there are details that have not been considered, and the Ridge School community who have lived on this street should have proper time to comment. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Good evening. My name is Kim Guzis. I live at 51 Clinton Avenue, and I'm here again also tonight as a concerned resident of Clinton Avenue and a mother of a 4-year-old who will soon be attending Ridge School. Over the past 4 years, the residents of Clinton Avenue have attended many citizen safety and town board meetings, and I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about the potential safety issue that could be created by opening up Clinton Avenue while students will be walking home from school. The proposed street closure is from 2:30 to 3:30. However, the crossing guard is on duty till 3:45. The closure times should correspond to the crossing hour times. Additionally, I worry about people who are parking on the street to go to school events, and when that event is over, if they're going to be driving home while the students are walking home. Please understand, I am not opposed to opening the street to through traffic. I just really want to work together to find a solution to this problem that keeps coming up over and over and over again after 4 years. So my goal is to work together with the members, the residents of Clinton Avenue, and you. We know the street best. We live there. So I'm really hoping that we can work together to come to a final resolution to this problem. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Good evening.
Michelle Katzman, 35 Clinton Avenue. I'm not going to repeat pretty much, I think the last
Could you speak into the microphone,
the
please?
last two comments,
Pick it
I
up.
think, pretty much said basically how the residents feel. We want to work in conjunction with you to make sure that the street remains as safe as it has been for the last 50 years. We have never had an incident, and we want to keep it that way. So we appreciate that you are addressing the concern of safety, but we want to also be involved to make sure that that continues.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no other public comment, we're going to close public comment and move on. But before we do, if somebody doesn't mind, I just want to ask a quick question of Councilman Walsh. Did these times for Clinton came from the Board of Ed? No?
Yes, they came from the
did.
principal of Ridge School, actually.
Right, so they came from the Ridge School, so that, and I actually thought we had different times, and we changed it to reflect what the board what they gave us.
Correct, and it's from the principal of Ridge.
So would there be, and just as a question for the village manager, that 2:30 to 3:45, can we change that in this, at the introduction point?
We could do it at a public hearing, right? And it would be a,
So we could say as
different-
amended?
Or would you prefer to do it now?
Might be better if there is a consensus, it would be better now. That way it can be published.
Okay.
as a
Okay.
full ordinance.
And then, so I just wanted to, because I don't recall, I know somebody just said the morning hours, were those not reflective either of the hours that the walk to school would occur? So I'm not sure what the crossing guard hours are. You can't call out, but can I can you just want to come back here 1 second, because I just want to make sure we get this right up front.
The crossing guard hours are 8 to 9 and 3 to 3:45. But I also wanted to, maybe you can, in addition, can clarify when there's a half-day, how that's going to affect the street as well.
Yeah, just one more time. So the morning is from 8 until 9, and in the afternoon, it's 3 to 3:45. So we'll just leave it at are we okay to leave it at the 2:30 to 3:45, which allows people to kind of move before, right? Okay, so shuffle along, okay.
Okay, so upon introduction, we'll make a motion to amend it, okay?
Good, okay, great, okay, good. All
And
right,
unfortunately, we can't change it for half-days because we won't know when those half-days are. You have to create an ordinance that's going to allow people to know what they have to do and what hours. So unfortunately, we can't change for half-days.
so, but we do have, why don't we do this? Because we have a work session on the 28th, we can kind of start to project and think that through, how we might
But
address
it
it.
may, it's going to change every year.
Right.
It's not going to be the same day every year that they have half-days.
But could we have an ordinance that simply stated on the days that the schools, I guess,
How can that be enforced? The police would have to know when the schools have a half-day, it
Okay,
can't be
got it.
enforced.
All right, okay, so I guess we'll just cross that bridge when we need to. Okay, all right. So, moving on to the village manager's report.
Okay. The health department would like to remind all village residents that the 2017 dog license renewals are due during the month of June. A $20 late fee will be charged for all renewals received after June 30th. The health department has sent renewal notices via email. These are the emails that you gave when you previously registered your dogs. We will be sending a second email reminder next week. Please remember to print the renewal and send it in with payment and proof of rabies vaccination if required. Applications for new dogs can be obtained by visiting our website at ridgewoodnj.net or coming in person to the Village Hall Health Department. New Jersey law requires owners of all dogs 7 months of age or older to be registered in the town in which they live. In order for the license to be issued, the owner must present proof that a licensed veterinarian has vaccinated the dogs against rabies and that the duration of immunity from that vaccination does not expire before May 1st, 2018 for a 1-year license or before May 1st, 2020 for a 3-year license. To receive the discount for a spayed or neutered pet, proof must also be provided. The Glenwood Railroad Crossing, NJDOT has issued a memorandum of record. That information and the DOT contacts are posted on the village website on the home page in the narrative section to enable residents to contact DOT officials regarding their comments on the proposal to make Glenwood Road one-way. The deadline to submit comments is July 7th. So if you are opposed, if you are in favor, please make sure you make your thoughts and wishes known to NJDOT prior to July 7th in order to be able to be heard. The July 4th parade and fireworks information with details are posted on the village website and the July 4th committee website, which is www.ridgewoodjuly4th, which is the number 4th.com. Tickets may also be purchased online. The information also describes a Super 50-50 that the committee is holding, and it's a fundraiser to support this all-volunteer event. Senior transportation. We have Graydon Pool Senior Tuesdays, which began yesterday. We had one participant because it was too hot, obviously. But that one person did go, and we're glad for that. We have the next free Senior Tuesday at Graydon is on June 27th. We also have some transportation to the Cashaw Shell performances for our seniors on June 20th and 27th. And we also presented this service to, we let them know about this at the seniors picnic last week at the Hilt Picnic. Graydon Pool has been a big hit in this hot weather. So far, 51 free passes have been used since Graydon opened. And reminder, if you're still interested in purchasing a seasonal membership, you can do so by clicking on the picture of Graydon Pool at the top of our website. That will take you to Community Pass, and then you can pay online. The Ridgewood Guild sponsors Music in the Night and Art in the Night every Friday night. They provide various types of music throughout the Central Business District and artworks for sale at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. All of this benefits the Ridgewood Guild. This program will continue on Fridays through September 1st. The 59th Cashaw Memorial Shell season has begun. Last night they presented the Richard Ryder Swing Band, and tomorrow night will be the popular Bobby Burns Show, 100 Years of Broadway. Please see the Village's website under Departments, and then click on Recreation to see the performance list for the entire season. The Ridgewood Guild is sponsoring Movies in the Park at Memorial Park at Van Ness Square. Tonight they are showing A Place in the Sun, and on June 28th they will be showing Singing in the Rain. Bring a chair and enjoy the free movie. That's it.
Great, hopefully it won't rain that night. Okay. Council reports. Councilman Voigt?
Thank you. Nothing to report except the Planning Board is having a meeting on the 20th. It's for the vote on the Dayton, which is the development which is behind Mount Carmel. That'll also be on local TV. And on the 26th of this month, a special meeting for KS Broad as it relates to, again, a vote for the development itself, and that'll be at 7 p.m. Again, that'll be on TV. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Seaton?
Thank you, Mayor. Usually for committees, it kind of slows down in the summertime, but not for the
Is your
shade.
microphone on? It's hard to hear you.
All right, sorry. Usually things slow down for committees, but in the summertime, but not for the Shade Tree Commission. We had our meeting yesterday, and we discussed a successful mailer we had sent to about 2,400 Ridgewood homes to announce our Adopt a Tree program. We began discussions on exactly how we're going to plan to spend the $55,000 in capital funds to plant trees and reforest Ridgewood. And one of the more exciting things that happened was a very lively discussion about the tree wells downtown. So we had two members, Andrew Lowry and Ian Keller, went downtown and excavated a tree pit with help from our Signal Department and Parks Department. And what they found was that the first top foot of soil is okay, but once you get down, it gets really compacted, and there's a lot of rocks and things in the soil. So actually addressing the soil won't be that big of an issue. The bigger issue is getting water to trees. So based on all the work that we put into these tree wells, kind of looking what's in there, we had a company come in and is in the process of doing a soil analysis on several tree wells downtown. And basically what we're going to do is form a subcommittee to meet several times to really move this forward to see how to address these tree wells downtown. Because if you'll notice, there's some dead or dying trees downtown, and eventually it's going to cost a lot more money to just replace these trees that aren't going to take hold, they're not going to grow, and they're going to die in a year or two. So instead of going down that road, what we'd like to do is see if we could address these tree wells as they empty out, as the current trees in there die out, instead of just putting a new tree in, try and remediate each well, or come up with a plan to do the project over a number of years. So those discussions will be ongoing, and they're going to start relatively soon, this week or next week. And also, Councilman Haché, I've told him, because he said there was interest from the Central Business District Advisory Committee to address some of the tree wells in town. And since the Shade Tree Commission has already done so much work, we'd be happy to have somebody interested from the Central Business District Advisory Committee come over and be part of this discussion, and I think it will help all of us move forward. So that's everything I have for my reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Walsh?
I just have RAC tonight, Ridgewood Arts Council. We just had our two ambassadors one got their recognition, the other will get theirs soon enough. Reminder for some of the events we have upcoming. Ashley Zielinski is going to be doing a 3D printing workshop. That's going to be July 29th, so everybody put it on your calendars, because I know that during the summer, maybe everybody doesn't realize the things that are going on in town. August 17th, we're going to have Drew Martin. That's a Thursday, so it's not a weekend day. And he's also going to have Michael Thompson with him. We had conversations about the funding that we can have for Ridgewood Arts Council, so I'm going to connect with Bob Rooney. He had said that there was a dedication by rider for REAC, which is kind of how we are modeling our committee, so I'm going to connect with him to see how we can get a dedication of rider for the Ridgewood Arts Council. So any monies that we raise can go right in and be earmarked for Ridgewood Arts Council. July 9th, was a topic that came up. July 9th, there's going to be a book review at the library. One of our members' spouses wrote a book, and they're going to have a book review at the library. Let's see what else. We were talking about doing a banner for RAC that's going to have our logo on it, and that it will be interchangeable, so we can use it for all of our events. Something that would be like leaving a spot on the bottom, so we could change it for the artists that we have, and that way we'd be able to advertise up at Van Nest or wherever we would need to, so that people would be able to see our banner. That's about everything.
Thank you. Councilman Hache.
Only thing to report is on the CBD website. It's almost ready to go. We are finalizing the outline and the graphic design. Hopefully by the next monthly meeting we'll have that sorted out. And this Saturday, I, along with other members of CBDAC, are going to walk into all the businesses in downtown to collect email addresses. We're going to send each business an email link where they can access a special portal to the website to upload their business information. So they can put a picture of the storefront. They can put their name, address, link to the website. That way it's populated by them, it's kept up to date, and we're now responsible for the upkeep of the information. So that's going to happen this Saturday. And then, just in terms of fun things going around on this past Monday, Councilman Voigt, Mayor Knudsen, and myself attended the 90th anniversary of the Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce. The new slate of the new board members were sworn in. It was a wonderful event. I think it was, you forget just how much the Chamber does throughout the downtown for the community and the vibrancy of our downtown. So it was nice to see the recognition of all of the members and their contribution to the community. And that's all I have.
Thank you. So I have just a few items. Been a whirlwind couple of days. Friday morning I started out with a visit to Benjamin Franklin Middle School, BFBN. Team C, shout out, scored the mayor for their interview, something the other two teams couldn't seem to get past a firewall to email me, and one of the Team C kids figured out how to do it. And so, once again, shout out to Team C, and great job to Noreen Clark for BFBN. It's a wonderful program at the middle school. After that, I had the opportunity to attend the Ridgewood Public Library ESL Luncheon, which is always a wonderful event, and I know Janet Fricke was there. I ran out of my house this evening a little bit in a rush and forgot my brochure, so she can just nod her head. I think it's over 40 languages that are spoken and represented, 40 different countries and languages that are represented at the ESL luncheon. And congratulations to the students who received their recognition for completing the program, to the tutors, to the friends of the Ridgewood Public Library, and especially to the staff at the Ridgewood Public Library. It's one of the most wonderful events, and there's this incredible thing, quite delicious. That was also Friday. On Saturday, shout out to our 5 fine young women who were the recipients of the Gold Award for Girl Scouts, so they achieved right up to 12th grade, and for their community service projects, which were just absolutely outstanding. And also to the youngsters, I believe they go up to the 5th grade, that received their Bronze Award as well. And Councilman Hache joined me at that event, and it was really quite beautiful. Let me just see. Let's see. Monday, the third, was it Monday or Tuesday, actually, I'm sorry. I had the opportunity to work with the Ridge School third graders, came here for a little visit and a tour of Village Hall, and so they, 3 different classes, they came and they sat right here in the courtroom and got a little tutorial about how the village government operates, and went home with a nice government word search and a color with the mayor form, and they were really quite inquisitive and thrilled to be here. And their teachers did a wonderful job, and the kids were absolutely terrific. Last night, Monday night also was the 4th of July committee meeting. Just a reminder to visit ridgewoodjuly4.net, and that's actually the number 4. Tickets are being sold online and are available now. The July 4th committee is also doing a 50-50 where $600, $100 tickets will be sold, and the grand prize will be $25,000 minus tax, and with 10 $500 awards. So it's a really cool 50-50, one some of us are familiar with, and so hopefully everyone goes out and gets a $100 ticket, and that will help support and continue the tradition. Tomorrow evening is Ridgewood Access, which will be downstairs in the Mancuso room, and that will begin at 7:30. And let's see, and that is it. So we're moving on from there.
Okay, our next item is the public hearing for the Bergen County Historic Preservation Trust Fund. As you may recall, the Village Council approved the submission of a grant application for the Shedler House Restoration Phase 2. Phase 2 will include establishing the following systems for the interior of the house and also windows and doors. It will include things such as heating, plumbing, electric, air conditioning, fire and security, windows, doors, and siding. The estimate for the work would be not to exceed $400,000, requiring our Phase 2 grant request to be $200,000 because it's a 50-50 match. Hickey and Connolly are historic consultants who we've previously hired, and they will produce the bid documents to ensure meeting the required historic standards. And the other part of the Phase 2 grant application was listing the building on the National Register of Historic Places. So that's what it's all about. We're required to hold a hearing, and so that's what we're going to do now.
Okay. So the public hearing on the historic preservation grant application for restoration of the Zabriskie Shedler House Phase 2 at the Shedler Park property is now open. Good evening.
Good evening. Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. First of all, thank you all very much for the approval for this grant money that you're dedicating to restoration of the Shedler House. Pardon my voice, just the weather. Thank you also for the idea of appointing an ad hoc committee to decide the best use of the house. An open discussion among residents is a good thing, and I think we all welcome it. I hope you'll appoint many residents from the east side, including a newly formed Friends of the Zabriskie Shedler House, of which I'm a proud member. Years ago, the League of Women Voters came to this council to urge preservation of the house for public use. The village historian also came to the council to urge restoration of the building for public use. I think many at home have heard erroneous claims that the house is worthless, that it will cost $2 million to repair, that nobody wants it, on and on, that there's no use for the house. These statements are alternative facts, if we can use today's vernacular. The house still stands after almost a decade of total neglect by past councils and managers. A report from the Open Space Committee challenged residents to find a use for the house, and if no use, it should be demolished. A serious offer for the public use of the house was made at council meetings 3 times, but ignored. Thank goodness this council has seen the value in preserving history, as well as giving many residents their due. During this decade, reliable, reputable, historic architects, roofers have gone through the house, pronounced it sound. Residents wanted the village to obey its own regulation that abandoned properties be maintained. But we were told that the village is exempt from its own ordinances, which really makes me very sad. Yes, the house needs repairs. But if past council had even done a modicum of work, except for 1 or 2 light tarps, this wouldn't be the case. I can count at least 24 times that residents asked in public comments or by email for the house to be protected, and they were ignored. A decade. Except for one time, the village engineer did install vents so the mold wouldn't spread throughout the house. Residents and friends did all the rest. They paid for studies out of their own pocket. They paid for repairs out of their own pockets. They paid for removal of trees laying against the house out of their own pockets. They put money in escrow so that past government would even consider applying for a grant, which was never done. I tell you this because of the frustrations, and thank goodness that this council has done the right thing, and you have the gratitude of so many residents in town. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellie.
I want to add to that. This is Patricia Infantino, 6 Betty Court. Thank you, Council, for standing by the Shedler house and for finally getting it restored and put together. As you see today, you're going to be dealing with different places in Ridgewood that are used for different things later on, like the gardeners are going to be at the Tabernacle house now, and just the way the stable developed. I think that's what's going to happen with this house. It's really going to be a center for community life, and I look forward to that, and I thank you so much for making it possible.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to
Please identify yourself.
Oh, thank you. Michelle Italia, 3 Betty Court, Ridgewood. I just would like to say that I am very proud of the members of this council for seeing the value in preserving our local history and preserving a little bit of our past by putting in this application and by hopefully preserving, now that we have the house, and doing something that is really valuable. As an retired social studies teacher, I saw so many possibilities because through the years living there, I've always seen people with some sort of a gadget walking around to see if they could find something. And talking to others, they picked up a coin, or they picked up this, or they picked up that showed a little bit of history. But it also would be nice, because we have history about that location, about American history, and we can preserve that by saying this is the beginning of where Ridgewood started. And it's kind of interesting. And through Bergen Community College, that they have done some work on this area. So it is nice to see that Ridgewood has a whole different diversity in as far as area is concerned. And I'm pretty sure that this area will be used wisely, that every member of the town will be able to enjoy it in any way that we develop the property and develop the house. And it will be just the same way as Tabernacle has been, and the same way that the stable has. And so it encompasses the whole village, and it makes us very proud of our town, and that we are preserving something of importance of history. So I do thank you again for seeing the value of preserving rather than destroying. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Salvo Infantino, 6 Betty Court. I will be very brief. I'd like just to add that society has an obligation to preserve the symbols of its history, and the Shedler House represents our history. So I urge the council to do whatever it takes to maintain and preserve this symbol of our history. Thank you very much for your attention.
Is there?
Alan DeLugash, 3 Betty Court. I would just like to second what my wife said. The importance of the house for the town, I think, will be proven over time. And I'd like to say that this council, this Shedler issue is a hotbed, and you have listened to our concerns, our wishes, our arguments, and I think for the first time, someone's paying attention to the east side on Ridgewood to see that we need, as much as the west side needs, things to make the neighborhood better. And we don't have a lot over there, but by adding this house to the property and possibly a park on top of that, will make the east side of Ridgewood blossom and make it a part of Ridgewood that we'll all be proud of. And I think the council deserves the recognition that they did the right thing. And again, I applaud you for your willingness to stand by and go forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if there's no one else, I'm just going to add just a little bit to this. There's someone, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, actually. There's someone who has given a voice and notoriety and importance to the Zabriskie-Shedler house, and Isabella Altano couldn't be here today due to health reasons. Some of you know she's been struggling with cancer since last year, and Isabella actually is a highly regarded member of our community, well-respected member of our Ridgewood Planning Board, liaison to Historic Preservation Commission, and a member of the League of Women Voters as well. And so, although she was doing better, tonight finds her in harm's way once again. So I am giving her voice this evening. Although for health reasons I cannot voice my opinion in person on tonight's public hearing for the application for historic preservation grants for the Zabriskie-Shedler house, I want to restate and reinforce my opinion that I totally support the application. The historic Zabriskie-Shedler house was built in 1820 and is one of the last extant Dutch wood-framed houses in Bergen County. The municipal grant application and subsequent applications will give the village opportunity to preserve, restore, and maintain the house at 50% of the cost, while allowing local history to be respected and preserved for future generations. The restored, preserved, and maintained structure will provide additional and much-needed village community space, or perhaps another use that would fit well within a community-oriented and much-needed neighborhood, Shedler Park. Let's dismiss the noise that we have heard in the past about $1 million budget to restore the house. Said budget does not exist and is only mentioned to scare people who are not familiar with the history of the house. Why should majestic architecture of the rich and powerful be celebrated and thus restored, and vernacular farmhouse architecture be shunned? The Zabriskie-Shedler house's humble history should be celebrated by our entire village and follow the path of the stable, now constantly used and very much a village icon, but originally slated for demolition because a previous administration lacked a vision. Thank you, Isabella Altano. And so I just wanted to add Isabella's voice and, as always, wish her the very best. And with that, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Ashe?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
Okay, the next one, we have no ordinances for Ridgewood Water, so the next is resolutions for Ridgewood Water. The following resolutions, numbered 17-148 through 17-149, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the Village Council. They will be read by title only. Award contract improvements to booster transfer stations. Award professional services contract design and construction administration of granular activated carbon treatment system at car treatment facility. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ashe?
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3601.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes, so ordered. Will clerk please read ordinance 3601 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic, at Section 265-59, Schedule 9, Stop Intersections.
I move the ordinance 3601 be adopted on first reading and on July 12, 2017 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3602.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes, so ordered. Will clerk please read ordinance 3602 by title?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 222 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Power Tools, Landscaping, and Yard Maintenance Equipment at Section 222-1, Commercial Use.
I move that ordinance 3602 be adopted on first reading and that July 12th, 2017 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3603.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. So ordered. Will clerk please read ordinance 3603 by title?
An ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-53 for the preparation and execution of a master plan revision in the Village of Ridgewood.
I move that ordinance 3603 be adopted on first reading and that July 12, 2017 be fixed as a date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. I move the first reading of ordinance 3604.
Second.
Okay. Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes. So ordered. Will the clerk please read ordinance 3604 by title as amended? Is that?
No, I'm gonna
Okay, you're
read
going
it by
to do that,
title
okay.
and then we'll amend it.
All right.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 265 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Vehicles and Traffic at Section 265-64, Schedule 14, Streets Closed to Traffic. So, now I need someone to do an amendment.
Oh, so,
I make a motion to amend ordinance 3604 to reflect the PM times for the street closure to be 2:30 PM to 3:45 PM during school days.
Okay. So then I need a second for
Second.
that. Okay, so let me vote on the amendment. Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
White.
I'm sorry, Heather, are we voting on the
This is the
way it's reading?
amendment. This is
Or are we
the-
voting on to approve the amendment?
No, this is to approve the amendment.
This is voting on the amendment.
To change the hour.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay, Voight, Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
yes.
Okay. So then you would say,
I move
be
that-
adopted as amended.
Got it.
I move that ordinance 3604 be adopted as amended on first reading and that July 12, 2017 be fixed as the date for the hearing thereon.
Second.
Okay. Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
No.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I move the clerk read ordinance 3599 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hold on one second. Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3599?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 260 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood, Trees and Shrubs.
Okay, the public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. The key provision of this, there are a lot of new things in this proposed ordinance, but the key component obviously is the fact that you will now need a permit to cut down a tree that has a DBH, diameter breast height, or circumference, whatever, of more than 8 inches.
And I fully support this, but my concern, especially based upon what I see going on now with the sprinkler ordinance, and that is that there are still people who are watering their lawns at times when they are not permitted, is that I wonder how this is going to be communicated to tree surgeons and the public, and how it's going to be enforced. Quite frankly, with the watering restrictions, we have somewhat of a failure. There are still people who don't get it. I've gotten postcards, I've gotten robocalls, I've gotten emails. I'm assuming that everybody is getting the same thing I'm getting, but there are still people who don't get it. So now you're going to adopt an ordinance that prohibits people from taking down a tree that's wider than 8 inches, or they have to have a permit to do it. I'm sorry, not prohibited from doing it. You have to have a permit to do it. And I'm wondering what the communication plan is and what the enforcement plan is. I see that people need a permit, but there are no provisions in this that I read that the permit has to be displayed, which I think is something that's lacking. I think that there should be something in here that says the permit needs to be displayed, because you know it's going to happen. People are going to drive down the street, they're going to see a tree coming down, and somebody's going to call and say, gee, so-and-so is taking a tree down on their property, when in fact the person may have a permit. So why don't we have that permit displayed? Just like with the watering restrictions, there are some exemptions to the watering restrictions that people can get, but there should be some sign. So when you drive by and you look and you see somebody watering at a time that they're not supposed to be watering, if they are legally allowed to do it because they've gotten some provision to do it, there should be something posted so you don't waste a phone call, so the police don't come out, so that code enforcement doesn't come out. So again, my concerns are, what is your plan to communicate the fact that you can no longer just take down a tree on your property if it's greater than 8 inches in diameter without having a permit? And what is the enforcement plan? Again, this does not call for the permit being displayed. So driving down the street, you see a tree surgeon working, your first thing is going to be, I got to call somebody and let them know that there's a big tree coming down and I don't see a permit. So I think that this should be modified to indicate that a permit needs to be prominently displayed if you have one, and there needs to be some sort of game plan in terms of communicating this new change to the public, and also who is responsible for enforcement. You know, it says some things about who's responsible for enforcement here, but you know what happens. Things don't always happen between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. on weekdays when the code enforcement officer's around. If a tree surgeon is working on the weekends in the permitted times, who are you to call? So I support this, but I think that there needs to be a little tweaking with respect to the permit and the need to display a permit, and also a plan put in place in terms of how this is going to be communicated to the public and the people who typically do tree work in the village, and who's going to be responsible for enforcing it, and how do we call the person who's responsible for enforcing it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, okay. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3599 be adopted on second reading and final publication is required by law.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Okay. I move the clerk read ordinance 3600 by title on second reading and the public hearing thereon be open.
Second.
Hache,
Yes.
Seaton,
Yes.
Voight,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
and Newton.
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3600?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 212 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled Parks and Recreation Areas at Article 7, Section 212-29 entitled Dogs.
Public hearing is now open.
Good evening again. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. I was very surprised, and when this ordinance was introduced, there were a number of people who said, why are we introducing this ordinance, because isn't there a leash law within the village already? And I was very surprised when I did some research to find out that there is no leash law within the village. Wow! You can actually walk your dog on public property, and there is no requirement for a collar and a leash. Can't believe that. Think that something needs to be done about that, but anyway. So Section 212, I guess, is with parks because Section 105 covers dogs. And in Section 105, there is some verbiage that says, this one that you're proposing says, Habenicle Park and Shedler Park only if they are on a leash. The terminology that's used in Section 105 is an adequate collar and leash. So my suggestion is that this be modified so that it corresponds exactly to what is in Section 105 with respect to controlling dogs. And again, I am shocked. We currently own 2 dogs. We've had dogs for 40 years. At sometimes we've had as many as 4 dogs. And we've lived in the village since 1979, and I just amazed that the village currently does not have a leash law. I just don't understand that. Certainly on your private property, you do what you want, but if you're walking a dog down a street, there's no requirement to have it on a leash. I think this council should take a close look at that and perhaps do something about that. Times have changed. There are a lot of aggressive dogs around now, people who are allergic to dogs, things like that. I think it's time to have a leash law that has some pretty tight restrictions on it. And again, if this could be modified so it corresponds to 105 with respect to adding the need for an adequate collar as well as a leash, that might do everybody a wonder of good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Boyd. Okay, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Sorry.
Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
I move that ordinance
Do you
3600.
want to amend or no?
You know what, can we do that? Do we want to do that? Because it should reflect the same language, so.
That's up to you, and it's not a substantive change. Adequate
So we want to
collar?
add
Just
adequate collar to that.
I don't think I don't think it means a substantive change to the ordinance.
So why don't we go, before we move that ordinance be adopted, do you want to first do an amendment to it, to move that it be amended to reflect the language of adequate collar and leash?
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, so I need a motion for that then.
All right, so I can make the motion, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to make the motion to amend 3600 to reflect the language consistent with Chapter 105, identifying an adequate collar and leash, to use the terminology adequate collar and leash.
Second.
Okay, so this is on the amendment. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
Okay.
I move that ordinance 3600 as amended be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
Second.
1 second. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Newton.
Yes.
Okay. We have some changes to the resolutions, so bear with us. The following resolutions, numbers 17150 through 17185, with the exception of 17168, which has been removed from the consent agenda, will be adopted on a consent agenda with one vote by the village council. They will be read by title only. 17-150, waive 4th of July vendor fees. Grant permission to fireworks company for fireworks display. Authorize snow plowing agreement with Bergen County. Title 59 approval butterfly and sensory garden at the Lester Stable. Award contract under state contract e-ticketing hardware. Award contract under Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission Cooperative Purchasing Program, furniture for Village Hall lunchroom. Title 59 approval furnishing and delivering of crossing guard services. Award contract furnishing and delivering crossing guard services. Title 59 approval on-call traffic engineering services. Award professional services contract on-call traffic engineering services. Authorize shared services agreement disposal of dewatered sludge with the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission. Approve resource room at Gatehouse at Irene Habernacle Family Park, Women Gardeners of Ridgewood. Authorize cleaning of Kings Pond Park by Ridgewood Wildscape and Partners. Support the Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressive Awareness Initiative, FOP. Approve 2016-2017 renewal of Ridgewood Lodge number 1455 BPOE liquor license. Approve 2017-2018 renewals of liquor licenses. Authorize refund of taxes for disabled veteran. Authorize mailing of estimated 2017 third quarter tax bills. Approve funding of master plan revision through special emergency notes. Authorize acceptance of senior bus from New Jersey Transit. Approve and authorize execution of agreement, Estate Card Tax Savings Program Master Service Agreement. Appoint members to Planning Board. Appoint members to Zoning Board of Adjustment. Appoint Municipal Court Judge. Appoint Village Attorney. Appoint Village Labor Attorney. Appoint Village Bond Attorney. Appoint Municipal Prosecutor. Appoint Public Defender and Alternate Public Defender. Appoint Community Development Representative. Appoint Representative to Open Space Trust Regional Committee. Appoint members to Community Center Advisory Board. Appoint members to Ridgewood Arts Council. Appoint village council members as liaisons to various boards and committees. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh? And Knutson?
Yes.
Just for the record, Resolution 17-186, which appears on your agendas, is not being considered this evening on the advice of Labor Council. We now move on to the following resolution, numbered 17-168, which will be considered separately and read in full. 17-153 was removed and actually will not be considered at all.
So I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Okay. Resolution urging the state legislature to extend the 2% cap on police and fire arbitration contract awards. Whereas local municipalities require specific tools to address the rising cost of municipal government. And whereas in July 2010, the governor and New Jersey state legislature enacted a permanent 2% cap on municipal and school board tax levies with limited exceptions that did not include police and fire arbitration contract awards. And whereas salary costs to a great extent drive property tax increases. And whereas in December 2010, the legislature unanimously approved and the governor enacted a temporary 2% cap on police and fire arbitration contract awards in an effort to control increasing salary costs and provide a solution to assist local governments in keeping property taxes down and costs under control. And whereas the December 2010 legislation included an April 1st, 2014 sunset on the 2% arbitration cap, while the 2% property tax levy remained permanent for municipalities and school boards. And whereas in June 2014, the legislature unanimously approved and the governor enacted an extension to December 31st, 2017 for the 2% arbitration cap. However, the 2% property tax levy cap continues to remain permanent without an exemption for police and fire arbitration contract awards. And whereas municipalities continue efforts to contain costs and provide vital services to residents within the 2% property tax levy, while the New Jersey economy remains sluggish and taxpayers struggle to keep their homes and pay their taxes. And whereas we recognize that this change in arbitration reform needs a longer time to mature in order to see the benefits of the legislation and its actual impact on the cost of local government budgets and the impact on taxpayers. And whereas the final report and recommendations of the Police and Fire Public Interest Arbitration Impact Task Force, which was established in the December 2010 legislation, is not due until the same day as the expiration of the cap on interest arbitration awards, which is December 31st, 2017. And whereas we recognize it is now time for our taxpayers to benefit directly from these cost-saving measures, as many police and fire contracts will come due for negotiation after the sunset date. And whereas if the cap on interest arbitration expires while the 2% levy cap remains in effect, municipalities will be forced to reduce or eliminate municipal services in order to fund interest arbitration awards. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood urges the state legislature to extend the 2% cap on police and fire arbitration contract awards for 5 more years, at which time the legislature will have hard data to examine and then make a final decision as to whether this law should be made permanent. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution is forwarded to State Assemblyman, it's actually Kevin Rooney, right? Kevin Rooney, State Assemblyman David Russo, State Senator Kevin O'Toole, the Commissioner of the Department of Labor, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guardano, Governor Chris Christie, and the League of Municipalities. May I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Hache?
Yes.
Seaton?
Yes.
Voigt?
Yes.
Walsh? And Mayor Newton is recusing herself. Okay. That's it?
Yeah.
And so with that, we're going right back to public comment.
Good evening again. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. A question about 17158. At your work session last week, there was some discussion concerning the number of crossing guards that were currently in use, and it was commented that there was a recommendation for 3 additional crossing guards to be added to the contract. At the time, I should have commented, but my concern at the time was, did the person who's making $330,000 a year have any input into saying that they needed 3 more people, or was this a decision that was reached by village employees? Again, if you're going to hire 3 more people, that means a bigger contract, and my concern is what involvement did the contractor have, if any, in determining that 3 more people needed to be hired? And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
It actually was determined through our police department and some of the safety chairs of the schools that requested it. So,
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any other public comments? Well, you come to the microphone, Janie, and then just state your name and address.
Jane Remus, 118 Madison Place. I just, I was watching on TV at home, and I heard one of the Clinton residents say that the crossing guard hours were 8 to 9. They're not. They're 8 to 8:45. And so, but I still think that you would want it closed until 9 because if kids are late and their parents don't realize they're going to meander up Clinton, you want them to be safe walking up Clinton. As far as the afternoon hours, like the crossing guard hours are 3 to 3:45, but obviously you want it open a little bit before the crossing guard goes on duty because you don't want cars driving down the street at like 2:59 in case kids get out early, which they sometimes do. But the last kids walked down that street at like 3:20. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've sat there with the crossing guard, Jane, and counted and watched the times. And so I think you'd probably be safe doing it 2:30 to 3:30, but if not, you could maybe switch it to 2:45 to 3:45 if you want to stick with the crossing guard hours. But thank you, everyone, for, all the time you've given to this, and helping this situation become a little bit safer for everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ann Lubbing, 342 South Irving Street. I wanted to thank the Deputy Mayor for the work regarding the tree wells in the CBD. Those things are just horrible. A friend of mine owns a business in town, and in front of his particular business, they're on their 3rd tree that has been planted and faithfully watered and died, and clearly something is going on underneath. I'm very glad that you're going to remediate the soil more than 6 inches deep because it's horrible looking, all the dead trees. And I do appreciate, I know that's minor compared to some of the other things that you're considering, but it's beautification of the downtown, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Fowler. I live at 57 Clinton Avenue. I've lived there for 19 years. I'm very confused by the proposal for the change on the times that the street will be closed on Clinton Avenue. My understanding was that this proposal originated out of the Safety Committee, and I was in attendance at the Safety Committee meeting where this issue was discussed. We were told that if any change was proposed for Clinton Avenue, that its primary goal or objective would be to reduce the potential for interactions between pedestrians and vehicles. The proposed change, I honestly don't understand how that will achieve that in any way. I think the best case scenario would be that it will be neutral with regard to potential interactions between pedestrians and vehicles. But on the other hand, as we heard a little bit tonight, I think there's a real possibility of it increasing the potential for interactions between pedestrians and vehicles. I don't know the exact number of times that students are released half-day, but I do work at home quite a bit, and my own observations, I would say it's probably a handful, 5 or 6 at least. So if we don't have any anything in that resolution that's going to address the half-days, we're creating a situation, at least on 5 or 6 days, where we're going to have the street shared by vehicles legally allowed to be on the street in the middle of the day, and pedestrians. Second, I think it would be incredibly short-sighted not to expect that cars will be parking on the street if they're allowed to travel on the street up until 3 o'clock. And if it becomes yet another pickup point, we're going to have cars parked there, we're going to have children coming down the street and interacting with vehicles that have not been there in the past because the street's been closed. So it would seem, in looking at the pros and cons of this, I don't honestly see what the pros are. I can see 2 possible areas of cons where it's going to create increased interactions between vehicles and pedestrians, which is exactly what the Safety Committee said a reduction of was going to be their primary objective. So I just don't understand the rationale of this. If the real reason for this change is to improve or change traffic issues or parking issues, then I think we would be adopting this proposal at real risk, because we would be increasing the potential interactions between the vehicles and the pedestrians. And that issue has come up many times before. It was a year or 2 ago that this council recognized that traffic and parking issues were something that should not be addressed by stopgap or haphazard approaches. And Deputy Mayor Seaton, as I recall, suggested a more universal approach at looking at that and creating a special task force to look at the issues around that school. And my understanding was that did take place, and proposals were made and were adopted. So if this isn't really a safety issue, but is a traffic and parking issue, then haphazard and stopgap approaches are not what we should be looking at, where there's this potential risk of creating an increase of these interactions. And if it really is a safety issue, then I just don't understand how we're improving the safety issue and not actually creating a more negative situation. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Good evening. Monica Buser, 492 Northern Parkway. I am the chair of the Shade Tree Commission, and I'd just like to thank the council for, and especially Deputy Mayor Seaton for working on this shade tree protection ordinance, and also for funding us, giving us more money to plant trees and making Ridgewood the place that it should be, with a nice canopy. And that's basically it. Just thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now with the public comments, we'll take a resolution to go into closed session.
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on June 14, 2017 at 8 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached. And that said closed session be held in the caucus room on the 4th floor of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to legal matters, to include co-litigation, Valley Hospital, and personnel issues, to include boards and committees, and contract negotiations, to include Central Valet. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec, and be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Thank you.